Here's a VCR to look at. This is an Emerson VCR765 from late 80s, I believe. Super common model. Those who watch YouTube probably recognize this as the one that 8-Bit Guy always uses. Can't remember if his is the 765. There's another model similar that has digital tracking. This has the dial-based tracking. Neither of them are automatic, but it's got buttons instead. Pretty common, pretty baseline, inexpensive, Orion-made, but they seem to still be kicking around and still working. Got this for free. I don't even remember why it was free. Let's see what it does. Power the TV on. Well, it's got a dim VFD. Oh, let's flip this to the line in. All right, so I can hear the tuner. It's on channel 3. I don't have a channel 3. Program. I think in order to set the channels, I probably need the remote. Well, that sucks. See, this is programming timers. There's 3 timers. Oh, 4. How many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 of them. There's nothing else. Huh. Well, let's see if it plays a tape. We're going for Titanic this time. I don't know if you can hear that. Let me turn the volume on the TV down. Can you guess what the problem is? Nice. These feel pretty crusty. All right, we got 3 belts. One of them is part of the loading mechanism down here, and it goes up to this reel here. And then you have 2 belts, one coming off the motor to this intermediary thing, and then one going to the cassette loading part. Yeah, I don't know if these are all supposed to be the same size. The one that goes to the undercarriage looks a little bigger. They're all pretty egg-shaped, though. I'm going to try boiling them. All right. Ended up adding another 2 minutes, so they were in for 6 minutes. Let's see if that did anything. I haven't had good luck boiling belts, and I suspect I haven't been putting them in for long enough. Or the belts that I've tried boiling were just beyond rejuvenation. And that's really what this is. It's like when people rejuvenate a CRT and it gets a little bit of life left before dying again. This is a last-ditch effort, if I could say that. This isn't going to give you brand new belts, but these were a little bit hardened. They can make... Oh! Maybe. Never a good judge of that. But they seem to be more circular, which is good. And they all seem to be about the same size. I think the one on the left is bigger, so that'll be the one going to the undercarriage. And then the middle and the right one will go on top. So let me install these and let's see what happens. Also, to make sure I accidentally don't drink the rubber water, have myself a decoy beer. You know, at least in the short term, this might just work. These have a lot of elasticity. They're nice and tight. I know I say this every time, but these spring hook things, like the old typewriter repair tools, invaluable when you're hooking and unhooking belts on. Like this took me 2 seconds to put the belt on one side, pull it here. I can't recommend these enough. If I did affiliate links, there would be one in the bottom, but there isn't. So just search spring hook tool and you'll find it. Okay, now let's see if it was just the belts or if it's something else. And power you on. Still unhappy. Interesting. It got almost completely loaded. So I don't think the belt was slipping because I didn't see it stall out. Let's try again. Yeah, it pulls all the way. This tape's already done. Let's see what it does on the bottom side. Huh. Maybe mode switch? Where in the heck is the mode switch for this guy? I'm thinking it's probably where it says mode selector SW, MSSW, mode selector switch. Right here on this cam gear. So to get at that, probably need to pull this board out, which means I need to pull the cover off here and then swing this board out, and I hope there's nothing spring-loaded and timed on it. Alright, this is neat. Kind of reminiscent of the kind of early 80s Panasonics. To get this board out, it's actually hinged at the back. So this board on the front here unclips, and then it's got these hinged connectors. I believe these connectors might be able to open up, or they might just be hinged. I don't know. Anyway, a couple clips on the side, there, and then this whole thing will start to hinge. I've just removed a screw up here, and it appears to want to go. So let me just check what cables I need to move, and we'll see if this thing goes. All right, the board came out with ease. I unclipped this ribbon cable from this board. There's 3 screws that held it down. I desoldered this little solenoid. Let me flip this back over. From here, you don't really need to. I'm sure there's a way you could flip this board down on the front here like that. But there's these 2 wires that go up to the top side, and I hadn't unclipped those. So I just found it easier to flip it this way. Man, this update to my phone, the camera is always so zoomed in. This is intense. I have to hold it back. Like an old man reading a book. So the light stick and the end of tape sensors are on this board. Mode switch. The reel table sensor. I believe this will be a reel table sensor, right? Goes down there. Might just be a real, yeah, that's a real speed sensor. And then there's 2 switches here. And the one on this side is most likely going to be, I don't know what this one is, probably to do with the eject mechanism. And this one would be for record, the record tab. And nicely enough, this mode switch has a key on it that lines up right there. So I'll pop this off and clean it. Of course, I can't say for certain that this is the problem, but it definitely looks pretty grimy. Grease all looks new. I don't know if this is the original grease and it just survived very well, or someone re-greased this sometime recently in its life. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this with some contact cleaner on a Q-tip. There, much cleaner. Got just a little bit of, let's see here, Just a little bit of dirt off of that. Just a little. So these just 4 clips on the inside there. Pop that back in. There we go. So I'm going to put this back together and see if it continues to destroy my precious Titanic. Alright, we're all back in. 3 screws. These 2 are metal long threading. This is a short plastic threading. This is soldered back on the solenoid. Plugged everything back in. There was a cable over here I unplugged and the ribbon cable going to this board. And before I forget, let me pop this belt on here and then let's give it a test. Well, it sounds horrible because the tape's eaten, but it's moving. Let me plug things back in here. Video out, audio out. And I got a picture. Something's scraping. Not sure if that's the tape or what. It's definitely the sound of the reel. Nice. Now, do I have pause? I don't have pause. I have fast forward and plays the big one on top. That seems to be working just fine. Try rewind, scan. I haven't checked to see the condition of the pinch roller or anything. It's a perfectly cromulent picture. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, yeah, this is gonna get me hit. I was going to say that this sort of dark grease is usually the stuff that causes problems, but these guides work just fine. There's no jamming of this movement at all. It moves very freely and fast. This, however, seems to have a lot of resistance. So this white grease seems fine. Like if I poke a little bit here, it's nice and soft. It's not gummed up at all, so I don't think that's the problem, and I see plenty of it here. I'm just going to run it in and out a few times because it seems to be getting better the more I use it. I suspect this is sat for 20 years. Someone went to go use it. Hey, let's watch a movie in our old collection or something, and of course it was not working, just from sitting for years. The belts and the mode switch just dried up. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say about this. These Orions were everywhere. These were an inexpensive, like budget machine, but they weren't bad. But this is from an era when Funai was also decent as well. Just watch some Spatsbears videos on Funai from this time period, and those things sang. A beautiful picture. This is average. Everything about it's pretty average, but what I find impressive about these is that to this day they're sticking around as workhorses. Like this is a 2-head, you know, very basic, linear audio, mono, nothing special. The mechanism's, you know, cut down to a cost, but it's still, you know, a metal chassis and everything. It's not the 2000s cost cutting like that other, was it a Memorex branded Orion that I looked at, which was also really decent. I would say the biggest complaint that I have with this so far is the lack of functions off of the remote. I'm going to need a remote, and I do not have an Emerson remote. So I'm going to have to go and look out for one. But, I mean, otherwise it seems to work just great. Let's test some tapes out in it. Before we do that, let's investigate that scraping sound. Here's another hint. Try fast forward. Pretty sure that's not the tape. But let's try another one just to be certain. I'm thinking it's something in here. This needs a... Actually, this really does kind of feel stiff. Take that off. Hard to do one-handed. Maybe. Let's try a different tape to be certain. So this one I'll need to fast forward. So we'll hit stop, fast forward. Oh yeah. Unhappy. That just seems like it's really struggling to eject. I think I might investigate inside this assembly here. It might still need some lubrication. It's definitely not the belt slipping. These are transferring just fine. It's just the overall torque required to eject feels like it's higher than it should be. Now, as far as that noise, it almost looks like this is rubbing. You know what? I think I just need to put some lubrication underneath this idler gear. I think it's just running completely dry. Let me clean this path here and see what that does. I've lubricated the path of this. I don't think this is going to fix the issue, but it needed to be done anyway. So pop tape in. And we will hit fast forward. Oh yeah. Okay, that wasn't it. Alright, I think it's time. Got my electrical tape over this guy. Now, let's hit stop and fast forward. Oh. It's coming from down here. How come you're not making any noises now? Oh. It's actually the capstan motor. Probably the capstan itself. Okay, that came out. Gotta be very careful not to mess with this guy because it's got little things encoded and magnet and blah blah blah, so it's got a position sensor, and if you give too much heat or magnetism to that, it'll break it. But yeah, it's just a little E-clip on top. The most pleasant E-clip I've removed recently, because it has a little spot that keeps it centered so it doesn't spin around when you try and remove it. Very nice. I'm just going to clean the shaft, clean the hole in here, and then I'm going to put just a drop of oil. Just a drop. Well, while I had the that half of the capstan motor out, I decided, you know what? I looked at this grease that was in here a little bit closer, and it was kind of gummy. But whoever implied that didn't know the phrase, a little goes a long way. There was a lot of that nasty grease, just caked layers on the front and on the back. So I cleaned it up, just put some generic synthetic lubricant in there. The reason I did that is because to get at underneath here, you really got to get this part of the motor off. It's all very tightly packed in here. So if you're going to have this off, like I did, you might as well re-grease the guide rails. So let's see what it does. I gotta say, it seems to even go in better since only greasing this section. So I don't know if that's just, I don't know why. It could just be I'm working this guy in, but it does appear to be happier. Now the question is, what is fast forward going to sound like? Oh, heck yes. Delightful. Rewind. Oh, that's just great. And all I really did was I took a bit of oil on the back side before pushing this in, then just a tiny bit, like just take a little pocket screwdriver and a little bit of oil and just let it go inside this, because it looks like there's a bearing on top and there's a bearing on the bottom. So you just get a little bit of oil in both of those, and the oil from the bearing on the bottom, there's a little flat bit on the what would you call that part of the motor? Whatever. I keep wanting to call it the stator, but the stator is the fixed part on the PCB, I'm pretty sure. Comment below what it actually is and how wrong I am. Okay, anyway, let's test some tapes. First up, we have, I believe this is recorded in EP. Now this is going through my digitizer, so it's going to make it widescreen, which is annoying. It's me adjusting the tracking. So this recorded tape seems to be just fine on the centered position for the tracking. We can try some fast forward. Nice and clean. So the digitizer kind of goes purple. Loses the red color sync when you're doing stuff like that. And a rewind scan. Ooh. What was that? Ah. Do I have a crusty pinch roller? I think I do. Let me hit eject and see what it's like.
I didn't know.
Get my greasy fingers in here. Yeah, that's pretty hard. Oh. And you know what? Dang, that's all crusty and hard. Well, okay, let's get some rubber renew out and see what happens. Alright, I'm going to be doing this outside because that shit is nasty. So, I'm just going to start rubbing it on the roller while spinning it around, and then wiping off the excess. Let's see how well this works. I cleaned the pinch roller with some of that rubber renew stuff, and then I gave it a bit of a sanding and then a wipe with some Q-tip for the pile. It seems a little softer, but I mean this thing's pretty hard, so let's see if that improved at all. Gonna hit play. Got the video playing, and then I'm going to hit rewind scan. Let's get some light in here. Nope. So long term, let's go back. See how badly it got eaten. Chewed up. All right. So, thoughts on this VCR? Well, it was free. It's a low-end unit. It's a nice unit. But in order for this thing to be fixed and working, all three of these belts will need to be replaced. This pinch roller will probably need to be replaced. It's still, I mean, it's hard. Even taking a couple layers off with sanding and rubber renew, it's hard all the way through. It doesn't feel very soft. So, I don't know, some more layers taken off, it might be better, but this needs to be replaced. Inside here probably needs to be lubricated because it still seems to be moving pretty stiffly, but it works. Haven't cleaned the heads. Plays okay. Yeah, I mean overall it's just a very basic VCR. Oh, and if this thing were to be used, you know, regularly, it needs the remote. The channel scan, to change the record speed if you're going to be recording on it, to really do anything on this, to set the clock. So it's not just sitting there saying 12. I think on the front, let's see here. See, oh, no clock set. Okay, so I can set the clock. I guess I use probably channel up and down. Yep. Set it for today's Wednesday. Enter. You can set the time. This probably isn't coming off very well because it's super reflective, but that does work. So now it is 8:20 p.m., which is probably pretty close to what it actually is. What else we got here? Cancel, reset. Yeah, when you're programming. Program, enter, counter memory. But, of course, to display the counter, I believe you need the remote. So hit that. Nothing. So, yeah, it's a fun little basic VCR, but it's going to need more work than I'm willing to put into this for it to be, you know, worth anything. I don't know. Let's see if I can find a good home for it. It was fun to finally work on one of these because I've seen these all the time on YouTube and just everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, was this one in Home Alone or was it the 765? I think it was a generation before this one that was in Home Alone. But yeah, like these were everywhere. So it was fun to finally look at, but this one ain't staying. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. I don't know why you did, but I appreciate you.